Hey everyone, we're live at bullbuster.net, and today we're going to talk to you about everything you need to know about monofilament fishing line. Now, this guide is going to get in depth. Some of it you might already know, some of it you might not, some of it's going to be a review, and some of it's going to be completely new. So, let's get just started with why is mono awesome? And there's several reasons for that. One reason is it's way easier to handle than braid. As you guys might know, braid is a lot thinner and for the same strength than mono, so it can easily cut through your hand. So if you're using your hands on your fishing line, mono is a lot easier to handle. It's a lot better on your hands. Monofilament acts as a shock absorber. So our monofilament is low memory, uh, but monofilament's kind of like a spring. So when you pull the monofilament, it stretches. It can stretch like up to 25%, and that's nice to have as a shock absorber. If you're using braid, having mono on top of it gives it that stretch and that give. If you're just using mono, there's a lot of give, and that can one thing it can do is stop the hook from just tearing out of a fish's mouth that has a soft mouth. The other thing is monofilament is thicker in diameter. We just talked about that than braid, which means it's good around structure. So if there's sharp edges, having that extra diameter is a good thing because when it rubs against the structure, well, it's not going to break off as easily as braid. And monofilament, it floats. It does absorb water and it eventually becomes neutrally buoyant. So that's a good thing for monofilament. And it's good when you're using a topwater lure, let's say. It doesn't affect the swimming action of that lure. It's also the most economic fishing line. When you're talking, the other two types of fishing line are braid and fluorocarbon, and out of all of these, monofilament is the least expensive of them. So, and it's also really easy to tie knots with. So there's plenty of knots, and as long as you're using a mono like under 200-pound test, it's really easy to tie knots with. And okay, so how do people use monofilament fishing line? A lot of people use monofilament fishing line for trolling. Again, that shock absorbing quality is great for trolling because you're moving one way and then you hit a freight train of a fish that's heading the other way, and you want that shock absorbing to happen. So, mono is great for trolling. It's great for kite fishing. It's kind of the same thing. That shock absorber. Talk about a fish that comes, hits a line, and smacks the line and pops the line out of a clip, and there's all this mayhem going on. Monofilament is really well designed to deal with that. Again, we covered this one earlier. Fishing around structure. Monofilament fishing lines are great for fishing around structure. And in general, monofilament is that's it's other than like Dacron and old linen lines, monofilament's been around since the 50s and it works. If it doesn't break, don't fix it, kind of thing. Monofilament fishing line is good in general for pretty much any type of fishing. Uh, People also use monofilament as a mono top shot, and that's if you're using braid to add the abrasion resistance, to add the shock absorbing quality. That's also since monofilament is less expensive than braid, you want to change it out more often, and it's gonna be a lot less expensive to change out your monofilament than your braid when your line's going in and out and rubbing against things all the time. So, all right. And then what are some other uses? We have land-based shark fishing, bullbuster. That's how we got started, is land-based shark fishing. So definitely a lot of monofilament used in land-based shark fishing. In general, in big game fishing, monofilament fishing line is used a lot. Think marlin, tunas, mono is used a lot. So let's get into what is the best color for monofilament fishing line to use. Our best seller is clear monofilament fishing line, and it can be used in pretty much any situation. The pros of mono is, yeah, it just gets the job done. It's definitely translucent. You don't need a leader material unless you want to like scale down or use fluorocarbon. The one con to using clear monofilament fishing line is that unless you're really rinsing it a lot, uh, it can kind of start to look more milky a little bit faster than other colors with general salt and anything else that's going on. All right, so we have blue monofilament fishing line. Blue monofilament fishing line is great for offshore fishing. It looks the same color as the water around you. And for a con for blue, I don't know, blue's awesome. It's pretty hard to come up with a con for blue. Maybe you don't like the color on your reel against the blue. Who knows? But blue's a good color fishing line. How about pink monofilament fishing line? It's actually one of the most popular choices for fishing in South Florida. Just I think that's actually historical because there's a line company out of South Florida that really made pink monofilament famous. Uh, yeah, cons using pink, not really much of a con. Maybe you don't like it on your reel. It doesn't look so nice, but really it's kind of hard to come up with a con for blue. All right, so yellow monofilament fishing lines. The pro is you can see it. This is great if you're fishing on a team. We have another video about why teams use monofilament fishing line. It's really about why teams use yellow monofilament fishing line, and it's really about I can see it. If you're working with a team, you want to communicate. That line to the right. Look at that, and you want to be able to look at the line and be talking about the same thing. With other line colors, maybe it's harder to see, and one person might see it, the other person might not. So with team communication and lots of lines out, high vis is a great way to go. What's the con to high vis? That it's high vis. So you want to be using a leader or fluorocarbon, especially for fish that are really line shy. You need a leader so they don't see the line and more easily chase your bait. So what mono do you need? How much you need? We have a great calculator on our website to show you, how much line you need for each type of fishing reel. We compiled it from the manufacturer's websites. When you're ordering fishing line online, you probably want to order a little bit more than our calculator says, but it's there to give you a general idea of how much monofilament fishing line you need. So I know we have the line capacities for most Shimano reels, most Penn reels, most Everall reels, most Iowa reels, most Accurate reels, most Abbott reels, most Quantum reels, most Finno reels, and Van Staal's. But you'll have to look there because there's not really much I can cover here. You really got to dial in on what reel you have, how much you need. Okay, so how often should you be changing your monofilament fishing line? That's a question we get from a lot of our customers. The simple rule is once about every 6 months. Now this changes if you're out, if you're a charter boat and you're fishing every single day, or if you fish once a month, this changes. But the general idea is keep your fishing line, your monofilament fishing line, out of the sun and rinse your reels when you're done, and you're gonna get, the best. It's gonna last longer if you do this. So yeah. So a few cases where you might want to change your line more than once every 6 months is, let's say you're fishing really heavy drag. If you're fishing more than 20% of your mono's rated strength and you've fought several big fish for extended periods of time, you're probably going to want to respool after several of these big fish, because while monofilament can have low memory, if you're putting that much drag on your fish, you're really working your monofilament line, and it sounds like you're fishing for big fish, either with light tackle or just really big fish in general. So you're going to want to consider spooling your reels more than once every 6 months. Do you fish every day? We covered this earlier. If you're fishing 10 to 15 days a month or more, you're going to want to change your fishing lines a bit more often, because at this rate, you should be changing your line every month or two, and you're really going to be checking your line more often if you're fishing like this, and you're probably a professional at this point. Are you fishing a big money tournament? Are you fishing for $1 million? At this point, you might want to change your line after every fishing trip, and if you're fishing for $1 million, there could be any little tiny nick, and it matters. And monofilament fishing line, like we've covered previously, doesn't cost that much, especially when you're buying it brand direct. So buy a bulk spool, and if $1 million is on the line, change your line. So, all right, when is mono not your best bet? Are you trying to get your baits deep? Let's say you're daytime sword fishing. If you're dropping your line 1,000 feet, remember mono is neutrally buoyant, so and it's also thicker, so it's going to provide a lot more drag on the water. Mono is not the way to go to spool your reel when you're trying to drop 1,000 feet. Do you need the sensitivity to feel the bite? This is the same thing if you're dropping 1,000 feet. This is another case where you're going to probably want to use braid, because braid doesn't stretch, mono does, and that stretch is going to reduce your sensitivity. Do you need 1,000+ yards of line on your reel just because you're fishing really deep water, or you're fishing from land and you can't chase the fish? Let's say land-based shark fishing. In this case, you're going to want to add braid to the mix and not just use monofilament fishing lines. You want at least some braided backing. Do you need your line to be invisible? We talked about clear and blue mono in different cases, but fluorocarbon is really the way to go if you have a really finicky fish like a snook. All right, well, thank you for listening to this information on our ultimate guide to monofilament fishing lines. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us at cspoolbuster@gmail.com. Yeah, thank you very much for your time, and I hope we answered your questions.